Hi guys, this is Ben with South Sumter Self Storage. I just wanted to quickly go over the lock audit process and just show you essentially the steps that you need to perform in the Word document that I gave you. I'm going to show you how to do it right on your phone, so that way you don't have to print anything out, or you don't have to use a computer or anything like that in order to complete the lock audit each month. So if we bring up the Word document that was sent out, I'm going to walk through these steps with you to show you how to do it on your phone. So the first step is very simple. It's called, step one is check the return lockbox for locks and make it available. So essentially, way to think of it is there's two different apps, right? We have the DaVinci Lock app and we have the Airtable app. Now, if you change something in the DaVinci Lock app, it's not going to affect anything with Airtable. They're completely separate. But things to keep in mind is anything that's dealing with locks and locating or recording locks is going to deal with the DaVinci app. Whereas the Airtable app is simply there. It's just like an Excel spreadsheet. It's there for us to assign tasks and to give information of who is moving in and who is moving out. And it's a spot where you can perform the lock audit. So step one is return lockbox, or check the lockbox and make the units available. So because it's dealing with locks, we're going to be in the DaVinci app. So if I go to the DaVinci app here, this is the home screen. And what you're going to do here is you're going to essentially go to the office, open up the return locks box, which is mounted on the office door, pull the locks out, and then you're going to go into where it says serial codes. And what you're going to do is start typing in the first lock, the serial code on that lock. So for instance, if it was, say, ZZ4Y, whatever, as you type it, it's going to narrow it down. Once you have that serial code in the left there, you just click on the button, and the status is going to be something different, and I'll show you what I mean. It's going to say either assigned to vacant, it's going to say in use by tenant, or it's going to say overlocked. So one cool thing about this app is that if you scroll all the way to the bottom of this list under serial codes, it's going to have the code, or it's going to have the locks that are in use for the unit. So for instance, if we look down here at the bottom, unit number 83 is using the serial code number 4848XZ12. That is the serial code on the lock, so we know that that's the next column is the code for it, and we know the status. So the tenant is using that lock. So for instance, if that serial code is in the return lockbox, what we're going to do is click on that one, and we're going to change the status of it. Instead of tenant using lock, because they returned it back to the return lockbox, we're just going to make it available. And then we hit update. For this purpose, I'm going to hit cancel because I don't want that to save. But as simple as that. And you're going to go through and do that for each one. And like I said, because they're return locks, they're going to be in our system as being on a unit until you change it to available. So if you scroll to the bottom, it's a little bit easier to find the serial codes. So for instance, if you have one that says M4212, it's right here, assigned the unit number 75. Once you do that for all the locks, that's easy. That's it. That's step one. Step two is overlock delinquent units using the DaVinci app. Okay, again, we're dealing with locks, so we're going to be in the DaVinci app. Now, overlocked units that are delinquent. What are delinquent units? Very simply, they haven't paid for their rent for this month, and it's past the 10th of the month. That's it. So they get overlocked when it's past the 10th. And in order to do that, we're going to go into the main menu, and we're going to click on Unit Tasks, and it's going to give us a list in this first column of units that are considered delinquent. Now, when you go in here, if you have not already put a lock on it, where it says lock code is going to be blank. It's still going to list the unit number, but it's going to be blank. Okay, and I can show you what I mean here. So like it would look like this. It'll say unit number 10 or unit name 103, and the lock code is blank. If we have a delinquent unit that doesn't have a lock code on it, that means that there's no lock on it. So we have to go and put the lock on it. So we're going to walk out to unit number 28, and we're going to click on unit number 28. This is where you can type in the serial code for that unit, and then input that unit or that serial code in there. And what you're going to do is you're going to change the status to assigned overlock, very simply. Okay? And then you're going to hit done. And what that's going to do is it's going to save in our system that unit number 28 has this serial code in it. It's been assigned to an overlocked unit, and this is the code for it. That way we keep track of them. And you're going to do that for all the units that are listed in delinquent units. And then when you're done, that's the end of step 2. Now step 3, very simply, if we go back to the Word document, check the move out units in Airtable. So now move in, move out tenants. This is information is going to be in Airtable, and kind of step 3 and step 4 are separate, but you can do them at the same time essentially because they're in the same spot. So if we go into the Airtable app, this is what it looks like. It's just like an Excel spreadsheet with tabs on the bottom and rows. First thing we're going to do is check for move outs. Now for move outs, we have to know what date it is that we're there. So if it's the 16th of May, and this tenant is moving out, say for instance on June 1st, right? We're not going to check that unit yet because it's not June 1st, so he's still in there. So we have to wait until the date in this first column here is prior to the current date. So for instance, if this was May 10th and today's the 16th, then we can check it and make sure that the unit is clean and that the door is working, the hasp works. Once those are done, and we check that unit and it's ready to rent, what we're going to do is come in and we're just going to change the status column, the middle column where it says not checked yet. We're going to change that to ready for rent. That's it. That's going to tell our office that, okay, in our system, we're going to make that unit available for rent now. Okay. If you go in there, you open the door and they left all their stuff there, then we're going to say, okay, well, this needs heavy cleaning. Again, it's going to tell us that, hey, we need to get that stuff out. So what you're going to do as you're doing your lock audit is obviously come in here and say, okay, this is going to need heavy cleaning. Let me call the clean out guy. They're going to come and move everything out. But that's it. And you're going to do that for each unit. Obviously, if there's an issue with the door or anything like that, you're going to put a note in it. Okay. And then once you're done with that, you're going to take a lock with you because this is now a vacant unit. And you're going to go take that lock and you're going to do the same thing in DaVinci as we did before. You're going to go into serial codes and you're going to find that lock. Say it was, you have this lock number 311G71. You're going to click on it and you're going to change that that status to assigned to vacant because now it's a vacant unit and it's ready for rent. Okay, so that way when somebody rents the unit, you're going to go in here and you're going to say, okay, that was unit number 10. Okay, and you hit update. So now when somebody goes and rents that unit online, they're going to get a text message with the code for that unit because you put it into our system. If we don't put that in our system, that code is never going to be sent to the tenant and they're not going to know how to take the lock off. So that's what you do for that step, okay, for move outs. And the same thing with tasks, okay? You can do it, they're right next to each other here in the columns. You're going to go through and look and see what the issues are that people cause or that call us and that need. So for instance, unit number 47, Elizabeth Rebels, she called us and said, hey, I haven't had access to my unit in a long time because my key's not working. So are we able to swap the hasp out? And I told her, yeah, we can swap it out and we'll put an overlock on it. So that way it's secured until you can make it over there to put your own lock on it. Okay, so that's something where you're going to go in and you're going to take the hasp out, you're going to put the new one in, and you're going to put an overlock on it. And then we have to make sure we record that serial number in our system. And where we do that, right, for any lock is in the DaVinci app. So simply once you're done with this, right, you swap it out, you change the status of it to complete, so that way we know that it's complete. Or if you're unable to perform for whatever reason, we're going to make a note in there. Okay, you can take pictures in here as well. You can do all that stuff in here. But once you change that, you put the lock on it, you go back to the DaVinci app, right? And we type this number in, say, okay, we got this lock. It's going to go on this unit. It's T3X94. So we click on it. Now, because this person's not delinquent, right? They still paid in full, but they're having an issue with their lock, right? They want a new lock on it, and we're just assigning this lock to their unit so it doesn't get broken into, or because so it's secure, instead of changing the status to assigned to overlock or vacant, it's not vacant, we're just going to click, say, tenant is using lock. So that way we know, okay, this lock was put on there for the tenant to use, and then when they're done with it, they were instructed to take it off and put it back in the return lockbox. And then obviously you select the number again, say number 10, and you hit update. Okay? Again, if you don't do that in our system, we're not going to know the code for the lock that's on her unit. So when she calls and says, hey, what's the code? We're not going to know. So it's very important that every time we put a lock on a unit, we record the serial number in DaVinci Lock and pair it to that unit number. Okay? And that's it for steps. I think that's steps 3 and 4, right? Is that right? Yeah, so that's it for steps 3 and 4. Check the move-ins and move-outs, and then complete the tasks. Okay, just note, when you complete the task, just change the status of that task in Airtable to complete, which is here, underneath here. Okay, it's going to be blue when we assign it. You can change it to in progress to let us know that you saw the task, but when you're done with it, you want to change it to the green. Okay, and this is all written out in here. That's why this document's a little longer. And the last and final thing that you're going to do after you do those 4 steps is the lock audit. And the lock audit is pretty simple. What we're doing is using Airtable to go through and make a record of if a unit has an overlock on it or if it does not. Okay? And the reason why we do that is we want to compare that lock audit to what our office or our software is showing in our system. So very simply, what you're going to do is you're going to go back to Airtable, and under lock audit, you're going to see a list here on the left of the different unit numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way down to 93. And you're going to have a note section on the right. Now, where it says current, you can change that. If you click on it, you can change it to current, overlocked, or needs repair. So for instance, we're going to walk through each building and we're going to say, okay, number 1 doesn't have an overlock on it. Number 2 doesn't have an overlock on it. So we're going to leave those as current. And we go all the way down to 6 and we say, oh, there's an overlock on that unit. So we're going to change, if it was this, we're going to change unit number 6 to overlocked. Okay, and again, that's going to tell us, okay, there's a lock on this. We need to know why. And then for instance, if you go down through here and you say, oh, you know what, this guy's door's open, just go ahead and make a note of it in here. You know, unit number 11, door open. It's a kind of thing, okay? Or if the hasp is beat up, for instance, it needs repair, just make a note of it in there. And you're going to walk by each unit and just and make sure that if it has an overlock on it, it's listed in our lock audit as an overlock. If it doesn't, it's listed as current. And you're going to go all the way through, all the way to the bottom, which is unit number 93. And then once you go through that, all you're going to do is you have to send that lock audit to us, to our email. Nope. And the way you do that is by hitting that little plus sign with the 2 little guys up at the top right corner. You click on that, and then you're going to click the link that says editor invite link for any email, which is there. Okay, and that's going to bring you up, and you're just going to go to your email address or your email app, and you're going to send it to office@sumterselfstorage.com. And for the subject, you're going to just say the date, whatever the date is, say 5/16/22 lock audit, and you're going to hit send. That's it. Okay, and that completes your task for your lock audits. That's the whole process. I hope this was helpful. I hope it seems pretty simple. Once you do it once or twice, it's relatively easy. It's only going to take about an hour, depending upon how many tasks there are and move-ins and move-outs, etc. Thanks, guys.